This group of pictures is an account of several days of activities here in Osaka. First of all, you'll see some pictures of us at the karaoke bar, which is just across the street from where the folks live. It's just a little bar. It isn't probably any bigger than a small room in my house, but it's very friendly, family-oriented, and the boys and I and Curtis went over there one evening and just had a blast doing songs. I had trouble picking out the songs because they were all in Japanese except for a few in English, but the boys had a great time, and old Monato, who's quite a little ham actor, just had the greatest time putting on his own little show. You'll see a couple of pictures of boys both singing and looking up songs that they wanted to pick out. And it was fun. We had a good time, and the boys had pop, and I had some iced tea, or I guess maybe a glass of wine. I'm not sure what it was. But anyhow, we had a good evening. This is the lady who runs the little karaoke bar, and she was just very friendly and had a good time with us. We were the only ones there for most of the time. One man did come in later on, but it was very clean and neat, and she was just a delightful person to see. The next day, I took an all-day trip up to Nagano. You may remember Nagano because it was another site of a Winter Olympics game. I think this one was in '92. Anyhow, it was more recent than the one in Sapporo. The countryside is just beautiful. There's so many visions or pictures of mountains and hills and little communities. And as I was riding along on the train, I kept snapping pictures that looked a lot like New Mexico in some ways. As we came to the top of a high mountain pass, we looked down and saw the whole city of Nagano just laid out in front of us, and it was a beautiful sight. I did enjoy the city. I didn't have much time to be there, but it was a beautiful sight, and I was mainly on this trip just for the tourism, the beautiful pictures, views of mountain country and rural life. It's quite different seeing these small family operations in this part of the country. You can tell that these people have a marginal lifestyle economically. They're certainly not as affluent as many of the scenes and sights you see in the cities. This is a graveyard that I saw along the way, and there were a number of them. Each little community seemed to have its own, and many of them were right near the railroad tracks. You remember my mentioning the flags that fly this time of year, which honor the male members of the household. This is something having to do with their, I'm sure, with their state or their Buddhist faith, but they're very colorful, and they dot the landscape all along the way. Here again you see a vast picture of the mountains in the distance, and I think in one of the pictures you'll even see the snow-capped mountain ridges. Here you see a rice field under cultivation in the foreground, in the little village with the mountains or the hills in the background. The rice fields most of them seem to be in the planting stage right now. As soon as the rice is planted, then they flood the field, and it's covered with water for the remainder of the growing time. As the plants grow then, according to what Yoshiko was able to tell me, the plants grow through the up through the water, and they absorb the water into the ground. It isn't ever drained off, but it's just absorbed gradually into the ground. Beautiful trees in this country. These are typical of the landscape that I saw all along the way. One of the things that strikes me as I see all of this, there you'll see the mountain peaks in the background. One of the things that strikes me is everything is so clean in Japan. You never see trash or litter. I shouldn't say never, because occasionally out here in the rural areas where people don't really have a place to get rid of their trash, you will see a type of a landfill sort of, but it's very rare. Here you'll see the rice fields that are covered in water, and this is apparently a field of tea plants. at least the best I can tell from what people have told me about it. This was just a scene along the railroad. These are family homes, of course. Here's another rice field that's been flooded with water and is in the early growing stage. You don't see the plants yet coming up through the ground. Sky is beautiful here on this trip. It reminded me, of course, of New Mexico's blue skies, too. But there's absolutely no evidence of any thinning of any forestry. Of any of the forests. Here you'll see the fields that are being planted. As I understand it, those fields have not yet been planted. Here's a village in the distance. As I was coming through on the train, of course, I didn't get off. This is a big aqueduct or viaduct, I guess you'd say. Anyhow, water flowing down a large ditch or canal. They use these waters, of course, to irrigate other plants and other crops during the season. You can tell that everything. See, here's a train station we went by. See how clean and how well maintained it is. We could learn a lot from the Japanese as far as upkeep of our public places. It's just, you get to the point where you don't even want to drop a gum wrapper because you know somebody's going to come along right behind you and pick it up if you don't pick it up yourself. Very, very frugal in all of their habits. There's another rice field, and I understand that there's a real problem right now that they're dealing with problems of rice shortages in some parts of the world, and they're talking about putting some kind of a embargo on rice so that it can be shipped overseas, or that they can bring rice in some places. Apparently, I think in other Asian countries there's a real shortage of rice. I'm not sure what this crop is. It looks a little bit too tall to be tea plants, but it could be, this could be, I suppose, soybeans. I'm sure they raise a lot of soybeans because so much of their food supply is based on soy products. Beautiful country all the way, and I really did have a great time seeing. Here you'll see the rice plants beginning to come up through the water. This is an orchard. They have quite a number of. Some of parts of Japan are very warm and almost what you'd call semi-tropical, I guess. And the farther south you go, the more you see fruit trees and orchards. And I'm not sure what this orchard is bearing, but it probably is some type of a fruit similar to what we would have at home. There's another rice paddy with the rice beginning to emerge. The rice